All right. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are going to start with some housekeeping, and we'll give a few seconds for people to join. We're seeing attendees joining us as I speak. So we're going to go right into the housekeeping now and jump in there. So today's webinar, the topic for today's webinar is the 2024 Agile Marketing Playbook for ROI-focused growth. If you have any questions, please submit them in the Q&A bar. We are recording this event, and we will send you a link to the recording in a day or two, in the next day or two. All right. So this is the agenda for today. We'll start with, we'll take a very quick look at the Agile Marketing Framework, and then we'll jump into the most exciting part of today's webinar, which is our customer story with our awesome customer, Boll & Branch. We'll talk about tools and tactics for success. And then we'll we'll look at experimentation best practices for guaranteed ROI. And then we'll wrap it all up with a Q&A section at the end. So keep your questions coming. All right, so this is our panel for today. I am Saranya Babu. I'm the General Manager and Head of Instapage. We have two speakers from the Boll & Branch team, Monica Nguyen, who's a Digital Design Director, and Lise Garden, Senior Manager Acquisition. And they will be our customer speakers. And we have our very own Michelle Barnes, who is our Conversion Experience Advisor here at Instapage. So at this point, before we get into the topic itself, I think it's a very hot topic. We're going to run a quick poll to get get your thoughts on kind of what's top of mind for you. So the question for the poll is, what are some of the challenges you're currently facing in your marketing efforts? So select all of all the options that apply. First option, demonstrating ROI to leadership. Second is showing quick wins, adapting to market changes, having to do more with less resources and budgets, unlocking new channels, tactics with current strategies, not yielding results anymore. So as you kind of go ahead and select all of that apply, we want to make sure that we address anything that's top of mind for you adequately during this webinar. Again, for those of you who are kind of joining just now, welcome to the webinar. We will be getting into the section shortly, but we're running a very quick poll to get a sense for what is top of mind for our attendees today. So please go ahead and select your options. We'll leave it open for like a few seconds. All right, 10 more seconds, and we'll close the poll and get into the sections. And for those of you who are joining, joining right now, we are recording this session, and we will send a recording in the next day or two, a link to the recording. And if you have any questions, we do have a Q&A box. So please go ahead and share your questions there. And we would love to hear your thoughts on this poll, which we will close right now. Why don't we go and close the poll? Thank you. All right. Cool. So we're going to go into the first section, which is the Agile Marketing Framework. I'm Saranya Babu. I'm the General Manager of here and Head of Instapage. Prior to Instapage, I was the CMO at Cloudinary and Reich, and I have also been a customer of Instapage, and Instapage has been a huge part of my success as a marketer. Today, I am going to share with you some of my success recipes, and specifically around Agile marketing strategies. I have, in the last 5 years, built and honed a process that has been very, very key to my success. So I'm excited to share some of those with you. All right, so first thing is, why do we need Agile framework, and when is it actually relevant? It's not, as Agile doesn't work, it's not relevant for like every circumstance. It is applicable everywhere, but there are some circumstances where like Agile is really important. Specifically when you're going into something completely unknown, right? When the path or the visibility into the path ahead is really low, you're going into a completely new market, or you're launching a new product for like a new market. So those type of circumstances where you don't have a historical data on what works and what doesn't work, and you have to kind of figure it out. Those are circumstances where Agile can really help you get to a steady state pretty fast. And it can help you get to a predictable, repeatable type of state pretty fast. When markets are in flux, right? When everything is changing really fast, and you're not able to kind of do something and scale it because the market changes very fast. So that's a good time. Agile can be very, very useful. If you need to move really fast with less resources, which is a very, very common pain point that many of our customers face, I think Agile can be really useful. And then if you need to adapt quickly to changes, it could be an unexpected launch from a competitor, or like a market shift, or a partner change, or whatnot. All of these are great situations where Agile can come in handy. So what is Agile, right? So Agile is actually a framework that it's a software development methodology that started in the software world. The core tenets of Agile are adaptability, iteration, continuous delivery, short time frames, and frequent customer feedback. So what is Agile marketing, right? So Agile marketing is basically an adaptation of the Agile framework for marketing teams. And here are some of the core pillars in no particular order, but some of the core tenets or core pillars for Agile marketing. The first thing here is minimum viable campaigns, what I call MVCs. So it comes from the minimum viable product terminology and on the software side. But what this is something meaningful that you can launch to customers in a 2-week, like in a short time frame, like preferably 2 weeks to like maximum 3 or 4 weeks, right? But 2-week cycles. It does not have to be perfect. The whole point of Agile is that you don't want to take too much time trying to guess what is that perfect message, or what is that perfect design, or what is a perfect channel. You want to build something very quickly based on like your core kind of initial research, and then put it out there to let the customers and prospects, like real customers and prospects, actually tell you what is working and what is not. So that's kind of the core principle. So that's where the minimum viable campaigns come in. The second core pillar, and this is really important, any framework requires like people, process, and technology, all three to come together. So technology is extremely important. You want to have as much as possible a do-it-yourself type of easy-to-use tech stack. So you want to make sure that you want to avoid any workflows where your team members have to put in a request to another team. It goes into a queue, and then there's like a brief that needs to be submitted, and then there is like an evaluation, then it goes into their prioritization. You want to avoid those type of things, because that can then easily, anywhere you have those layers of delegation, or multiple teams involved, that can quickly break down Agile, and then it becomes like this 3-month to 6-month planning cycle, the traditional cycle, right? So some of the tools I've used in the past: Instapage, Canva, Rike, ChatGPT, HubSpot, Bing Images, Slack, Confluence, Zoom. Any of the competitors would also work as well. Adaptive planning. So the next thing is you don't want to have perfect plans for the next 3 to 6 months, right? You want to have 100% locked in plan for your 2 weeks, a slightly more flexible plan for the next 2 weeks, and a really flexible plan for your month 2, and then keep the rest of it TBD. You want to have a high-level idea of what you want to do, but to keep it kind of TBD, don't plan it out. So what you want to do is you want to launch, and you want to use the latest data, right? So you push out your decisions as much as you can, as much as possible, so you can make your decisions based on the latest and greatest data, real data from customers. And I would highly recommend you have a project or a campaign manager to manage this whole thing, because you're moving really fast. And you want to have bi-weekly or even daily check-ins to make sure that the entire team is on the same page all the time. Experimentation. Experimentation is a core pillar. A/B testing, ABC testing, multivariate testing. You definitely want to do this to get see the real-time customer feedback. And Michelle is gonna walk through, like, do a whole section about experimentation because it's really important. It's like kind of the most important pillar of this. She's gonna have a whole section towards the end of this session today. Continuous improvement is all about continuously, right? You want to like launch, you want to analyze the results, you want to track the how it's performing. You want to then make then optimizations, and then you want to iterate, keep iterating until you get your best results. And then collaboration and transparency. You really want to have small lean teams. You want to avoid all management layers in this type of structure. All the doers need to be in all the meetings. I would minimize the management layers because you want to avoid, like, all the latencies from communication, miscommunication. Information needs to be directly going to the people that are doing the work. And there needs to be one source of truth, like, so either like a Confluence or like Google Drive or whatnot, one source of truth. Frequent interactions, that's where like Slack and Zoom come in, so that you can have like very frequently kind of bursts of immediate response type of interactions. So those would be like the pillars of agile marketing. And I want to bring it all to life through like the example. I wish I had gone to Agile through like some kind of strategic kind of initiative, but we did not. I was kind of forced to do it because the whole world changed on us one night, like overnight, when everybody went remote, and we had our annual budgets and everything set for the whole year based on, we had our top 5 campaigns, and the top 2 campaigns for us at that time, specifically, this is for demand gen, right? Not for a digital. Our digital marketing was already on an agile schedule. This was demand gen, which was on an annual and quarterly schedule. So we had our whole plans. Our top 2 channels were in-person events and ABM gifting, where we send gifts to our prospects at their workplace. And now suddenly there are no more in-person events and nobody goes to the office. So we had to, and all the other channels were kind of exhibiting different behavior results. So for example, webinars, we used to have 1-hour webinars, and people with all the meetings and the Zoom fatigue did not want to attend webinars for, at that time. So we had to really rethink everything back to square one. So what we did was we were forced to actually switch to Agile. So we came together, we launched 10 different campaigns, right? All MVCs very quickly, no time to be perfect, but quickly launched 10 very different type of campaigns in 3 months. And we used the leading indicators to identify the top 5 channels. Leading indicator at that time was meetings set. And then based on that, we had to turn off four of those were not working at all. 3 of those were working. 3 of those had promise. So we kept the 3 that had promise, turned off the 4, added 3 more, and launched. And we did this iteration like 3 or 4 times. And in 6 months, we had our top 3 channels where we could see predictable, repeatable, scalable results, right? So that's kind of how we were able to build back our whole operation within like a 3 to 6 month period using the Agile approach. So, and in the last 5 years, I have tweaked it and optimized it, and has produced consistent results for me every single time. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Please type in your questions on the Q&A bar. But we are, with that, we come to the end of that section, and I am super excited to move on to our next section, which is kind of bringing all of these principles to life in real life setting, right? So, and to our customers, and not just us talking about it. So the next section is our bowl and branch story. So I'm going to jump into the section here. We have our 2 speakers with us today. I'm going to ask you, Monica, invite you to talk a little bit about bowl and branch.
All right, Simran, thank you so much for having us on board for this. This is super exciting. So for those of you who don't know who Bowl and Branch is, we produce organic luxury bedding and home goods. And we really pride ourselves on our transparent, sustainable supply chain process, starting from the non-GMO organic cottonseed that's being grown all the way through product development to distribution, our consumer experience. And so we really emphasize the importance of every step of our process, and every detail of our craftsmanship is considered. And we're intentional behind every decision that we make, which is why we source the highest quality, 100% organic materials, and we're committed to ethical sourcing and fair trade practices as well. And so with Boll and Branch as an entire organization, we're all always striving for better. And we're always keeping people at the core of what it is that we do and why we do it, while also keeping and being conscious of the planet.
Awesome. Thank you, Monica. And I just want to say we are really honored to be partnering with you. People spend 1/3 of their lives sleeping. So I think this is, what you're doing here has huge impact for like people and for the planet. So that's amazing. And thank you for the partnership. So we'll move on to just a quick introduction of yourself, Monica. Tell us about yourself.
So as Saranya had said, I'm the digital design director at Boll and Branch, and I oversee the design processes and a lot of the important technical decisions across channels, although a majority of my focus is really on the e-commerce side at Boll and Branch. And I've been in e-commerce for a little over 10 years with a focus in the luxury, fashion and beauty sector. And I think as an individual, the two words I can say that really represents myself as a person and that makes me a better designer is really passion and impact, and being really passionate about the stories that we're telling and how to create meaningful, memorable, and impactful experiences for our audiences.
Awesome. Thank you, Monica. And then we'll switch over to Elise. Elise, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, yeah, so I am a senior manager on the performance marketing team, specifically on the acquisition team within that. And I really focus on managing the strategy, the execution, and the performance of our digital acquisition channel. So that includes paid social, paid search, our affiliate program, and display.
Awesome. Thank you, Elise. Thank you so much for joining us today. And so we would love to hear about the operations you have today, right? How do you guys work with each other? So maybe we can start with you, Monica.
I'll have Elise kick off just the
All
initial
right, go for it.
briefing. Yeah.
Yeah, I can kick it off. So we tend to start with my team, the performance marketing team, providing a brief for the creative team. And this will tend to be for either an entirely new page experience or elements of a landing page. So this could be, for instance, the creation of a new module or a new page template, the content for that page, the copy, or all of the above. So we'll tend to provide that to the creative team, and then we'll pass that off to Monica's team for their execution.
And so when we are building out these new modules and landing experiences, um, based on the standards of the platform, we may not necessarily always be able to create the exact modules that we need. So then we'll tap into Instapage's development team and partner with them in order to be able to produce what it is that we're looking for. And we'll go through a little bit of a QA process, and then get handed off that module, and then we'll turn it into a global module for the creative team and for performance marketing to utilize. And what's great about this modular structure on Instapage and just ease of use is anyone in the creative team can refine the modules and make it better. And I'd say one example would be something like the product grid module, where we wanted to make it a little more on brand to what we currently have on site. And we were able to easily do that between desktop and mobile. And when it comes down to global modules, I think that's really what makes Instapage what it is outside of all the data and the testing and the heat maps, is that the ease of use. Once we do make things global, it just becomes a drag and drop at the end of the day. And we're really able to scale because of that.
Awesome. Thank you, Monica and Elise. So we'll do a little bit of a deep dive into Elise's team, which is a performance marketing team. So Elise, if you could tell us a little bit about your team, your team's charter, we can then move on to kind of what your experience has been with using Instapage.
Yeah, absolutely. So the acquisition team, which, as I mentioned, sits on the performance marketing team, is focused on bringing in new customers, with our primary KPI being CPA, or cost per new customer. So Some of the main metrics we take into consideration when we're evaluating performance would be media costs, click-through rate, conversion rate. We're also very focused on converting customers with a high LTV. So we're constantly evaluating the types of customers that we're driving, whether that be from different ad angles or converting from different landing page experiences.
Awesome. All right. And then what are your top 3 favorite Instapage features?
So first and foremost, I would say the ability to split test within Instapage is such a valuable tool for our team. So it really enables us to A/B test everything from a very small page change on a page to an entirely new page experience. And the key here is that we can do it without actually making any changes to the ads that are live in our campaign. So there's no disruption to performance when we do conduct these tests. I would also say the heat map feature is a favorite. It's a great way to understand what user engagement looks like on our pages and really helps us be creative and unlock new testing opportunities for potentially new pages or changes to existing pages. And then, as Monica mentioned, global blocks are also a favorite tool of ours on Instapage. They make our team very efficient. So rather than build a module from scratch, we're able to save that existing structure and then iterate on it as needed for new pages or existing pages.
That's awesome. Those are some of my favorite features as well. Thank you for that. So moving on to you, Monica, the creative marketing team. Tell us a little bit about your team. What is the charter for your team? And then what has your team's experience been with using Instapage?
So as a creative team, we partner closely with so many different teams across the organization, whether it be performance and marketing, of course, product development, retail, e-commerce, engineers. It is a wide array of touch points because we are helping to meet the needs of all of these teams. And so I look at our operations really as a strategic dance that incorporates this free-flowing movement, but also structured movement. And so the free-flowing movement is really the risk-taking, the innovation, being boundless and really exploring. It's the pie in the sky. Whereas the structured movement is really the data. It's the insights. It's what helps to ground some of our ideas. And so we, in order to work well with our cross-functional partners, it's really understanding their needs and their data and insights in order to take those really big ideas and alter them on a variation to create something that is a bit more tangible that helps to meet those needs for our partners. And so I look at the many teams that we have to support in all of these different ways, and there's only so many of us, right, at the end of the day, and we really have to be efficient with our time. And so Instapage has really helped us take back our time and allow us to allocate our time in strategy and all of the other day-to-day things that we all have to get done. And so from the creative standpoint, we are saving resources. We're saving development resources where we don't have to tap into them. We're able to sustain ourselves. And when we build out some of these templates and these modules and hand it off to performance marketing, they can go in and iterate it in the way that they need to and replace content in the way that they need to without needing to tap into us. And so there is a lot of autonomy there with having Instapage as one of our partners. And because of the platform being so easy to use, the learning curve is really, really easy. You need maybe an hour of fiddling around on the platform to really understand the workings of it. And then it's like you could just do it with your eyes closed at the end of the day. And so we're all able to iterate fairly quickly. And as I was talking about in the previous slide with needing to tap into Instapage's resources sometimes and working with the development team, that has been such a lifesaver. Something like a carousel that we had partnered up with, I could not do that on my own and really needed someone that could actually code it. And I was pleasantly surprised to see how quick the turnaround time for this was. And Instapage's team has really been able to work with our schedule just because of the needs of the company. Sometimes we're shifting gears and the timelines of things change. And so I've reached out to Instapage like, hey, can we get this feature done within this time frame? And it was delivered weeks and weeks earlier than I had anticipated. And so it's been really pleasant working with Instapage. And because of these quick turnaround times and being able to iterate in so many different ways and the flexibility of the platform, we're also really able to tell our story, our brand story on Instapage, which is great. Yes, we want to push product to consumers, but we also want to educate our consumers too. And Instapage allows us the ability to do all of that.
That's awesome. Hey, thank you so much. It's interesting you bring up the carousel, right? So we just, by the way, launched the carousel feature, but when we hear from customers, like these type of requests that come from customers, it also gives us an idea of kind of the most popular things that customers want, and it helps us inform our product roadmap so that we can then kind of build those out of the box as well. So it's been actually great getting to, engaging with the customers this way to implement those kind of custom requests and features, because it helps us then kind of bring them into the product as well. So it's been really great working with customers that way. Thank you so much, Monica. So now, same question for you. What are your top 3 favorite Instapage features?
I would say, like Elise, it would be the global blocks and the Insta blocks. Even though we don't necessarily utilize Insta blocks very often, we're just building these from scratch. It's great to know that those Insta blocks are there, that we could pretty much use it as a foundation and make the necessary updates where needed, especially if there are time constraints. Just like drag and drop it, update the fonts, update the padding and the spacing between desktop and mobile, and then it's done. The second one would be parallax scrolling. We don't currently have this on our site, but with some of our landing experience on Instapage, it's really nice having this because you're able to change the flow of which the user is navigating your site rather than just scrolling endlessly. That parallax really allows the user to pause for a moment and take in whatever information they've already scrolled through. And so I love that Instapage has that feature. And then the last one is really just the flexibility between desktop and mobile, how we're not confined to a specific mobile experience, that when we do enable mobile, we're able to shift things around in the way that we need it to.
That's awesome. So it's interesting you bring up parallax, right? Because when that was the one that we were surprised how many people actually were asking for it and like were using it. So it's nice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, now let's bring it all to life. Here are a couple of examples, real life examples, I believe. So if you could walk us through kind of your experience through some real examples, we would love to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a landing page that our team created. The goal of this page was to go into greater detail in this more long form format to detail the value of our per kale sheets and what makes Boll and Branch's per kale sheets different. So for some context, per kale is one of our most cooling fabrics and is the perfect solution for hot sleepers. So after users who click on an ad messaging this fabric, after they click on that ad, we send them to this page that goes into more detail about per kale. And this page was a true team effort. So in order to make this page, we partnered really closely with the creative team who ideated this page based on our goals and provided the structure, the content, the imagery. And now we have this page as a template for our team to then go and iterate on. So for example, we're able to leverage it across other channels. We can duplicate it and add potentially a unique characteristic like a unique promo code to a certain channel or campaign, which just makes it very quick and reactive for our team to move on.
And what's great too is because we have just a wide assortment of really beautiful fabrics, being able to duplicate this and then just swap the content. Like, how long would that even take, right? In comparison to if we were trying to build this from scratch and utilize our development team or even e-com to pull in certain modules and build this out.
Awesome. This is great. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much, Monica and Elise. That was really insightful and very useful. So we now come to the end of this section. But if you do have questions for Monica and Elise, please go ahead and type your questions in the Q&A bar, and we will address them in the Q&A section. So with that, we're going to jump into the next section with our very own Michelle Barnes about experimentation best practices for guaranteed ROI. All right, over to you, Michelle.
Thank you. I'm always happy to be here. A quick introduction into who I am. So I've worked in the digital marketing space for a little bit over 12 years. So really starting on the pre-click side with SEO and paid media. But then for the last 8 years, I really focused on improving performance on the post-click side through conversion rate optimization, and then creating a holistic campaign strategy to really tie that pre-click and that post-click experience together for a better user experience and better campaign performance. But really tying everything together, it's important to understand what is the importance of experimentation in agile marketing, and why is experimentation critical for growth. So diving into that, really when we look at it on the next slide, one more, there we go. Experimentation is essential for agile marketing as it enables organizations to validate ideas and strategies quickly. And then by testing hypothesis in this controlled environment, marketers can really identify what works and what doesn't without committing significant resources up front. It really allows for the optimization of campaigns and initiatives based on real-world data, leading to improved performance and ROI. Additionally, experimentation helps mitigate risk by allowing teams to learn from failures and successes on a smaller scale before rolling out to a full-scale implementation. And then in rapidly changing markets, the ability to adapt and iterate swiftly through experimentation is key to staying competitive and seizing new growth opportunities. So then how do you build a culture of experimentation within your organization? Well, creating a culture of experimentation really involves fostering an environment where curiosity, innovation, and data-driven decision-making are encouraged. It really starts at the top, at the leadership level, where support and resources for testing new ideas are provided. And then teams should be empowered to explore creative solutions and be rewarded for learning regardless of the experiment outcome. So whether it's a lose, a loss, inconclusive, our goal is to learn from experimentation and iterate on that. Then finally, having transparent sharing of results and insights across the organization, it helps build that collective knowledge to accelerate growth. And then by normalizing the process of testing and learning, companies can cultivate that agile mindset where continuous improvement and adaptation are really integral to the marketing strategies. It not only drives innovation, but it also ensures that organization remains agile and responsive to different market dynamics. So now that we kind of understand why experimentation is important and how to start building a culture of experimentation, let's take a look at how to design an effective experiment. It really starts with selecting the appropriate measurements and KPIs. So when measuring performance on landing page, it's important to set the right expectations and measurements for different parts of the marketing journey. I've kind of shared this before, but the truth is that marketing isn't linear anymore. The journey looks more like the image on the right, with users kind of moving in and out of different stages of the journey, where there may be many touch points before the final conversion versus that linear flow that we used to see. So if marketers don't measure the right goals for the different stages in the journey, this could lead their team to look in the wrong direction when they're trying to optimize and improve performance. I shared this analogy before, but you often hear about parts of marketing described as parts of an engine. Your marketing should be a well-oiled machine. And I still love that analogy because each part does have a specific purpose. But if you expect one piece of your marketing to have the function of another, it's like expecting your alternator to keep the engine cool, which is actually the job of the radiator. So if your engine is overheating and you're looking at what's wrong with the alternator, then you won't be able to fix your problem because you're not focused in the right area. So it really ties into that understanding what to measure at the right point in the journey. You should still look at the function of your marketing as a whole to measure the performance towards your primary KPIs and your goals, but you should also measure micro conversions to measure the individual performance of different pieces of your marketing strategy. Looking at the top of funnel, the initial stages, particularly with display campaigns aimed at building brand awareness, we kind of focus on what's called vanity metrics. Impressions are crucial indicators to exposure, but clicks should not be underestimated. They can go beyond vanity metrics and show a genuine interest. And as a bonus, consider running brand recall surveys as a gauge of the effectiveness of your awareness efforts. Then as visitors kind of move into that middle funnel stages, the different landing pages and parts of your marketing you identify for that, the goals evolve a little bit more. So click-through ads become more significant at this stage, and the journey shifts towards motivating users to really take that next step. The landing pages at that stage kind of serve as an intermediary, aiming for more than just clicks. We want actions like requesting more information, moving towards the ultimate goal. And those intermediary steps, once bonuses in the top of funnel stage, they become the key indicators towards that progress towards a conversion. And then finally, at the bottom of the funnel, clicks and ads still matter, but the emphasis shifts to the quality of those clicks. So each click should be viewed as a potential conversion. Measuring purchases becomes the primary metric, or lead generation, providing kind of that direct indicator of a successful conversion. And additionally, tracking qualified leads is vital for that long-term health of the sales pipeline. So once you kind of determined the correct measurements and KPIs, the foundation of any effective experiment lies in setting clear objectives and hypotheses for your experiments. Objectives define what the experiment aims to achieve, such as increasing conversion rates, enhancing user engagement, or testing a new feature's impacts. These objectives should be, I use the SMART ones, so specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Make sure that you're setting those SMART goals on there. Alongside objectives, hypotheses kind of provide that testable statement that predicts the expected outcome based on prior knowledge or assumptions. I like to use the structure: because X, we expect Y, and we will measure performance based on Z. And this is just an example provided here. Because a blur test revealed there wasn't enough contrast between the call to action and other elements on the page, we expect changing the button color to blue will increase click-through rates. We will measure performance based on button clicks and click-through rate. So you're clearly defining, why are you testing this? Like, what is the data behind the test that you want to do? What you expect the outcome to be, and then what are you going to be using to measure that outcome? And then it's important to kind of determine the right type of experiment for you. On the next slide, I highlight 3 of these types of tests that you can run. The first one is your standard A/B test. So this is the one that probably everybody has heard about, where it's also known as a split test. Generally, single variables of a page are tested to determine what performs better, and traffic is often split evenly on there. Then you have multivariate tests, and this is where multiple variables of a page are tested in different combinations to determine the impact on the conversion rate. Generally, in these, traffic is also split evenly. And then AI experimentation, or also known as a multi-iron bandit test. So this one helps mitigate risk a little bit. And essentially, in AI experiments, traffic is started out distributed evenly to kind of get a baseline, but then as we start to see the performance of certain variations improve or show better performance, traffic starts to shift more towards those winning variants. That way your risk is lower. You're not running 50% traffic to a loser during the full length of your experiment. You're starting to mitigate that risk by shifting traffic to the winning result. So then once you run your test and you complete your experiment, it is important to understand how to analyze and act on these results. So first, that starts with interpreting the experiment data. It involves carefully analyzing the results to draw meaningful conclusions. It starts with ensuring that the data collected is statistically significant, meaning that the observed effects are not likely due to chance. Statistical significance is typically assessed using p-values or confidence intervals, which help determine the reliability of those results. For example, if I set a p-value of 0.05 that is reached, then the confidence interval is 95%, which is essentially saying I'm 95% confident that the outcome was due to the change on the page, and it only leaves 5% to chance. So essentially a lower p-value means a higher confidence level. Once significance is established, the data should be examined in the context of the set objectives and the hypothesis. So it's important to look beyond the surface level metrics to understand the broader implications, including any unexpected outcomes or secondary effects. At this stage, it's really important to avoid confirmation bias, where you favor information that confirms a pre-existing belief while disregarding or minimizing evidence that contradicts it. So the accurate interpretation of the data allows teams to make informed decisions and validate or refute the initial hypothesis to ensure that conclusions are based on solid evidence. Once the experiment data has been analyzed and interpreted, the next step is to implement changes based on the findings. If the experiment confirms the hypothesis and shows a positive impact, the successful variant can be rolled out more broadly across more pages. This may involve updating landing page content, changing marketing strategies, or altering product features. But it's important and crucial to document these changes made and monitor the impact over time to ensure the results are consistent and sustainable. For experiments that didn't produce the expected outcomes or win, it's important to review the findings and understand why, and then consider alternative approaches. So implementing changes based on data-driven insights really helps optimize your strategies and achieve those business objectives more effectively. Overall, experimentation should not be a one-time activity, but an ongoing process of iterative testing and optimization. This approach involves continuously refining and testing different variables to progressively enhance performance. Each experiment provides new insights and feedback into the agile marketing cycle. So creating that feedback loop is really important, and that continuous improvement and iteration. It allows teams to adapt quickly to new data, optimize existing strategies, and explore new opportunities. And then by incorporating that feedback loop, organizations can continuously learn from their experiments, foster a culture of constant improvement. The iterative approach ensures that marketing strategies remain agile, relevant, and effective in a dynamic marketing environment. Through regular testing and optimization, businesses can stay ahead of the competition, continually enhance their offerings and customer experiences. So now that we've kind of ran through the process of testing, Monica and Elise, I would love to hear from you about how you've kind of used these concepts to test your pages and what those results have been.
Yeah, so wanted to spotlight this one test we ran. And for some background on this test, we historically included a module on one of our highly trafficked landing pages for digital channels that allowed users to shop products from our signature collection, which is one of our core fabrications. However, when we were using the heat map tool in Instapage, we actually identified that a significant portion of users were interacting with this module at the bottom of the landing page that actually provided a bit more details about some of our other fabrications and provided a bit more education on those fabrics. So in response to that insight, we conducted a split test in Instapage where we tested a net new shopping module that actually showcased a variety of sheet sets in our different fabrications, kind of in response to that insight that people were interested in that content. So we split test this against the existing module, and we actually found that the test module that showcased that variety of fabrics drove a 79% lift in the conversion rate on this page. So really meaningful results, and I think a really great use of the different tools that Instapage offers.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. All right. Well, I think we will go ahead and hand it back to Saranya and enter a little Q&A, I think.
All right, thank you so much, Michelle. So with that, we come to the end of all of our sections. We're going to jump into the Q&A, but before that, just to quickly recap, we started with the Agile marketing framework. We talked about why and when it's relevant, what are the core pillars of the Agile marketing framework, and with a real-life example. We then we went into our customer story with Bold and Branch, and we looked at kind of how the two different teams within Bold and Branch using Instapage and operated in an, kind of implementing agile marketing framework and really experimenting and optimizing their operations. And then finally, we just heard from Michelle about experimentation best practices for guaranteed ROI. So if you do have any questions, please go ahead and type them in the Q&A box. We will now jump into the Q&A section. So for the Q&A section, what we're going to do is I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to basically take the questions, and we'll kind of go cover all the speakers here. So let's start with, we will start with you, Monica. The first question I have here is, how do you make decisions about creating new pages? What are the factors that go into that?
I think it depends on what campaigns are currently running, understanding what the needs of the marketing team is, and then when we're briefed in, also understanding what the data has been in the past, whether it be through Instapage or our current site that's on production.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you. Well, next question here is for Michelle. Michelle, how do you recommend testing a page that doesn't receive a lot of traffic?
Yeah, that's always a challenge, those low volume pages. So what tends to happen if you don't have enough traffic is you may not reach statistical significance or proper sample size for the testing. So what I recommend is what's actually called a sequential test, where either you can make one significant change or a few changes on the page, let that run for 30 days, and then compare performance with the previous 30 days. Considerations are like if you have any seasonality, you want to make sure you're not doing it during like a specific promotion or some seasonal event you have going on. But generally, I like to look for at least a 15% lift in conversion rate to make a decision of, okay, the changes were enough to implement this variation. So sequential testing in those cases.
Got it. Awesome. So the next question here I have is for Elise. So Elise, how do you come up with things to test and a hypothesis at Bold and Branch?
Yeah, I mean, I think the heat map tool on Instapage is really valuable because it gives us a window into how users are behaving on site and can provide some kind of new ideas that we may not have considered to test on. And I think that last test that I spoke on is a good example of kind of using that tool to inform our testing.
Got it. Thank you so much. So there is one question about the Agile marketing framework that I would take. The question is, some aspects like messaging and design take much longer time to get right. How do you pick the right messaging when you move in 2-week sprints? So this is a great question, right? This is like one of the biggest kind of things that I grappled with, kind of switching from like the 3-month to 6-month kind of traditional launch cycle to an agile approach, right? So one thing to realize is, even if we try to get do all of our kind of customer research, the prior process was to do research with customers, interviews and everything and get the messaging. Even if we do that, it's a 3-month to 6-month process. And during the time, the market changes, right? If you're in a market where the market is constantly changing, the market has already changed, things have happened and customer needs have changed. All of that research to try to get it perfect becomes irrelevant very quickly. And also from a statistic, Michelle talked about statistical significance, right? A small sample set, doesn't give you the statistical significance, and you cannot do research with, research to do at that scale where you will have statistical significance is very hard to do. So I think the best way to do this is, usually I do like 2 to 5 interviews, like very quickly, talk to some customers or use review sites to get customer information. So these days it's very easy to get that type of information without the longer process. So review sites, feedback from our Zendesk tickets, and any other kind of those type of sources to quickly come up with something that is 60% there. And then we just launch either ads or emails. Those are the 2 easiest ways to check. You can A/B test on the subject lines, you can A/B test on that message, 5 different type of ads. and we quickly see which ones are actually getting traction for which audiences. And that's what we use in our 2-week sprints, right? And then we actually see for that message on that particular campaign, right? Because it also changes based on channel and like specifically that particular audience, what actually works. Because we always, even when we do the 2-week sprints, it's always an A/B test so that we can use the learnings. So that's kind of how it works for like those kind of things that traditionally take longer to do. All right, I have 2 last questions, one for Monica and one for Elise. So we'll start with the one with Elise. So Elise, do you test layouts, or do you just test content, or do you test both?
I'd say we test both. However, we do tend to focus more on content. I think when we're thinking of new pages, we're thinking of kind of new messaging tactics that we can explore, or testing into a messaging category that aligns with the ad itself. So that tends to be our biggest focus, but I think there's so much opportunity with layouts. So perhaps it's moving a very highly interacted module further up on the page. I think that's a great example of a layout test, and definitely things that we do implement in our testing.
Awesome, thank you. And then last question for you, Monica. So what is the process you use to come up with your like new templates and layouts as you're, again, working with a performance team? Is there a process that you have?
So we'll take a look at, or I'll take a look at our existing site to see what our page layout is and tap into our data and analytics team to get insights from them. Sometimes that helps to drive how we're going to execute our Instapage landing pages, and then also teaming up with Elise to get insights from her on what's been performing, what's not been performing, but also keeping in mind what is the goal of the page, what is the intent of the page. For the campaign, are we doing something that's more educational based? And so do we want product to surface up that high up on the page when we really are focused on storytelling and driving users to more areas of storytelling on our actual site? And then I'd say that's really the way that we approach it. And it's not a point A to point B to point C, really, right? Sometimes we could just throw that out the window and take a step back to try a different process, because maybe we'll come up with a new idea. But I'd say in general, that's typically the route that I'll follow. But again, it's always asking, what is the goal of the page?
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Monica and Elise and Michelle, for answering all the questions. And thank you all for joining us today. We did record this session, and we will be sending you a recording in a follow-up email shortly. And if you are interested in learning about the Instapage platform, you can come to our website at instapage.com and request a demo, or we also have free trials, so you can just go jump in and try the product. So thank you so much for joining us today. Have a good one.